So boys and girls, I'm going to show you how you make these letters. So watch how I do this. Down, up, and over. See that?
I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter.
If it's been a while since you felt the excitement
That is amazing.
or the pain
Can you erase it and try again?
of putting pen to paper,
I'm gonna write words oh so sweet.
What'd you write?
spend a few moments with Krista Walther's kindergarten class in Upper Arlington, Ohio.
You can see so much meaning and passion in their penmanship. You know, even if it's, all in capitals and a mix, it makes you smile.
Handwriting is still an essential skill for kids, but in the world beyond school, the one filled with computers and cell phones and you name it, we're losing our grip on penmanship. It's not that we're not writing. Every day we send 294 billion emails and nearly 5 billion text messages. But for adults, the tactile, personal art of handwriting, you're looking at mine, has pretty much been reduced to shopping lists and credit card signatures.
Well, we don't use it as much, but that's an old story. We haven't used handwriting the way we used to use handwriting for well over 100 years. This is from the 1880s.
Tamara Plakins-Thornton is a history professor at the State University of New York at Buffalo and the author of a history of handwriting in America. What was the handwriting of the Pilgrims like?
Well, first, you have to recognize that not everybody could write. And then even more strangely, there were people who could read but not write. The two skills were taught separately and understood to have separate purposes.
In the 17 and 1800s, if your handwriting was good enough, you could actually make it a career.
Well, there were professional penmen, professional writing masters who would produce penmanship tour de forces as a kind of calling card. This is what I can do.
Platt Rogers Spencer was the first American penman to create a national model for handwriting, and it was a fancy one.
Spencerian was very fussy and time-consuming. You had to get the shading just right. It was slow.
We know Spencerian today as the script used in the Coca-Cola logo, but that's about all. Because the arrival of the typewriter in the late 19th century presented enormous competition for handwriting. A new man took up the challenge, A.N. Palmer.
He really was the penmanship emperor of the 20th century.
Palmer said, "Speed it up."
What Palmer is thinking, and to some extent saying, is we have to have a modern 20th century script for modern 20th century business conditions. Fast, efficient. That way we can keep up with the typewriter. It's big on drill work.
Regimentation that Palmer believed would do more than just create good handwriting. It could make model citizens.
Penmanship could reform delinquents. Penmanship could assimilate immigrants. Penmanship could do just about everything except cure acne.
Moreover, handwriting was seen not just as the product of good habits, but of your character itself. And that gave rise to graphology, handwriting analysis.
It was all the rage, particularly in the early 1900s.
There were even graphology columns in magazines to which readers could submit their handwriting.
What handwriting reveals?
And find out their true self.
What I see in your handwriting, I see a great deal of conscientiousness and sincerity. On the other side, I can see a great deal of narrow-mindedness, some priggishness, considerable self-satisfaction.
And get this, before the 1920s, students weren't taught to write in print. They only learned cursive.
So Abraham Lincoln never printed?
He would not have printed.
And learning script took a lot of time.
And we recommended back then, and most teachers did, about 30 to 45 minutes.
Kathleen Wright is with Zahner Bloser, one of the largest handwriting instruction companies.
Let's go ahead and practice those. We're going to do it the same way. Down.
She says they've had to adapt to all the subjects crammed into a student's schedule.
So we've simplified it to about 15 minutes of direct instruction.
Today, children start with print, then move on to cursive.
Wonderful.
The script that we teach kids today is simple and efficient. Americans are all about efficiency.
Steve Graham is a literacy expert at Vanderbilt University. Graham says that just as computers are a technology, so are pencils and paper. Are pen and pencil still the most practical technology we have?
Well, they're clearly the simplest, they're the cheapest, and in many ways the most portable. Are they the most effective is a different question. If you take a look at having kids write on word processors over a period of time versus writing by hand, kids who write on word processors over time have better quality writing.
So if kids just bypassed handwriting altogether and started on keyboards, would they suffer?
Probably not.
Others disagree with Graham, citing studies that show that for kids, handwriting is more effective than typing for stimulating memory and language skills. And with computers still scarce in some classrooms and keyboards a poor fit for kids' hands, all agree penmanship counts.
It does matter. People form judgments about the credibility of your ideas based upon your handwriting.
So a kid with good handwriting could get better grades?
Yes, and a kid with poor handwriting gets lower grades on writing assignments.
Does our legibility get better as we get older?
No. What happens is you tend to peak around fourth grade. So,
Grade?
fourth grade. So most handwriting instruction stops at about fourth grade.
Some of us are reminded of that fourth grade peak the hard way.
Penmanship was part of the problem in the handwritten note from Gordon Brown, which
When
seemed to
former
be
British
addressed
Prime
to Mrs.
Minister
Jane
Gordon Brown wrote a letter of condolence to the mother of a soldier killed in Afghanistan, his sloppy hand and spelling errors so incensed her, she released the letter to the press, causing a penmanship scandal. And most of us don't give our own handwriting glowing reviews. A Sunday morning poll finds that while 8 out of 10 of us write at least some of the time, only 18% call their handwriting excellent.
Your handwriting is good enough. It doesn't have to be something from a medieval monastery.
Noted calligrapher Margaret Shepard has written 2 books encouraging readers to step away from the mouse and pen handwritten notes.
The worst handwriting is still way ahead of the best, trickiest, cutest little email.
After all, so much of our national history has been written by hand, and our personal history too.
Whenever I come across a letter of my mother's, it's like I hear her voice, she's in the room with me, and for communications between you and someone you really value, a handwritten letter is just awesome.
I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter.
Why does handwriting even matter?
Well, because you can't just have a computer everywhere you go. If it's out of batteries or crashes, you can still just pick up a pencil and paper.
And even these 4th graders, still struggling with how to form those cursive capitals, seem to get that handwriting has a place, at least somewhere.
Sometimes if you're stranded on an island or something, then you'll know how to write.
I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter.
On a desert island, on a job application, or for the history books, it just may be too soon to sign off on penmanship.